It's a couple of days to the New Year's, and I was just going to build an app for myself, so I thought we'd do it together. This is kind of going to be a pretty chill session, where we explore a bunch of different applications, the different ways that I would build a, simple app and the different things that you traverse. Maybe you learn something new, maybe I learned something new. Maybe this works, maybe this doesn't. But what's the target today? It's what we're trying to do today is I have this thing that I want to read, right? And it looks pretty simple. There we go. You know, um, it's this little book, and you run into things often online, and they're great. And so many people recommended this to me, but this is just such a pain to read. I have a few things that I'd really like to have if I'm reading books online, which I often tend to do. I want better typefaces. I'd like better line heights. It's just easier to scan and sort of read faster. I'd like my reading position to be remembered. And like tiny thing, I'd like some analytics on how I read, because just like looking at data, right? How hard is this to do today in like 2024? Because if you'd asked me in 2022 or even 2023, I would have said, yeah, that's pretty tough. That's going to take a good couple of weeks. Actually, I did build a reading app for, my partner on a whole different site. And so we're kind of going to try and replicate a lot of that here. That was kind of based on bionic reading and the concept of that, and to see if there was a faster way to do some of these things. Today, we're just going to build an app from scratch and see what happens, right? And our goal is to build something that's a good reading app. So let's start there. Now, what I'm using here is Mac Whisper, which is just a great little app, strongly recommended. And what it does is it runs Whisper locally on your machine. Quite a bunch of us now with significantly smaller sizes of Whisper available. It's way easier to run it locally. And so I can just hold down function and talk for a bit in any text input anywhere, and I can dictate right into it. And Whisper gives us punctuation, quotations, all the useful things that we need. Makes it so much easier to talk to LLMs because they just love context, makes it so much easier to build things for ourselves. So if we look over there, it's gonna, there we go, right? So we're actually gonna start there. Now, um, let's go. So the first thing we're gonna do is just build a prompt to build ourselves a little artifact so we can figure out how things should look, right? So I'm trying to build a reading app. Can you help me build a little tester so I can look at different kinds of typography, line heights, paragraph height, separation, maybe a few palettes for colors and different things so that I can kind of figure out what look I'm really looking for. Now, there's a number of places these days on the internet where you can just run and execute code, but none are as convenient as Claude because they've just got a bunch of different libraries loaded in, like ShadCN, and they've just got an easy way for you to build artifacts. One thing that Claude's also figured out reasonably well is the ability to edit artifacts, and that means that you can actually push context length quite a bit. Now, models like O1 Pro and Flash have more effective context lengths, but just having the interactive interpreter right there means it's so much easier, including the share functionality they've got to just quickly test something out. Okay, perfect. So we've got a little tester over here. I generally prefer sans serif. We could look at, sepia, night. Sepia didn't do anything. We can go back to that. Paper is actually pretty chill. I mean, or we could go with papyrus, but this seems pretty chill. Overall, I would say um, that's not that bad. I think it's limited there. One of the things I really wish Claude would let me do was to sort of expand this out bigger, or it lets you do that, but I haven't realized that it's actually possible. Let's look at 1.4. 1.5 is actually pretty good. I might make it like a 17 pixels, right? Okay, so one thing I can do, oftentimes, remember these models are now multimodal, right? Um, okay, so I might just go, hey, Um, can you take inspiration from that and then just add a bunch more palettes so we can just play around with the colors? Feel free to add other colors that you think are cool or combinations and stuff. Give me like 20 that I can just click through. There we go. It's fun, what AI has really done, modern models have really done, is just making development just cool again. Like you can just keep asking for things and making modifications, and it just made me make so many more things than I would have otherwise. Okay, we have. Oh, unfortunately, we don't actually have more color palettes there. Maybe we missed something there. Hmm. Sometimes that happens. Um, I don't actually see the color palettes in there. Can you double check? Now, what Claude kind of did there for a second, which maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't, is try and edit things. And see, it is actually editing things here. I'm not sure why that isn't actually loading. Um, there we go. Okay, so now we've got a lot more options. Um, Desert is pretty nice. Lavender is pretty nice. Forest is kind of cool. Okay, so why don't we start with the forest? Before we do that, what if we wanted to make this better, right? One thing I want to emphasize here is I'm going to skip across models just to get ideas from a bunch of different ones, pass information back and forth. That has now become part of my workflow that I sometimes don't even think about doing it. And one app that's really great to do that in is Misty. So what I'll do here in Misty is I'll just open up three chats. One of them is going to have Sonnet, another one's going to have, let's say, O1 Mini. And now I can just go, okay, I'm trying to build a writing app. Feel free to use internet research or just your own knowledge. I'm looking for general conventions and rules to follow to make the text as pleasing to read as possible. So things like font size, spacing, typography, white space, color, contrast ratio. I'm sure I'm missing like a bunch, but give me a general, concise set of guidelines. Feel free to think and explain yourself, but at the end, give me a concise set of guidelines that I can then use to start thinking about how to make a very, very good reading app. Also, I realize I keep saying writing app. I actually mean reading app. Sometimes because you release the button too soon, doesn't actually show up as the right word. There we go. Man, don't you just love models that respond quickly? That recitation error, I rarely see these days. They've done quite a bit of really useful work trying to get rid of it, but it still just shows up sometimes. I don't know that anyone fully understands it, but yeah. Okay, so all right. So this is good. I'm just going to copy that in. This is unnecessarily wordy without really helping us out too much. Um, so I'm going to give you a bunch of guidelines that I got from somewhere else. What I want to pick here is forest, 16 pixels of font, 1.5 line height, 1.5 EM paragraph spacing, and 65 characters of max width, and a serif font for the time being. But I want you to consider these guidelines overall and then give me a really, really good style sheet that best describes all of the different guidelines therein. There we go. And I can just paste that in. Actually, sans serif is a bit better. So I might just modify and say sans serif. Okay, while that works, why don't we just go to fonts and then check out what font we'd like to use. I sometimes just scroll. I know these are sometimes, free fonts. Would it be funny if we used Ubuntu? Be funny if we used something else. Hanken is sometimes my go-to because it's just reasonably easy to read and it's a variable font. So I might go in here and say, hey, I don't want Chinzo. I guess I was looking at Chinzo before. Um, Here's the import for a bunch of fonts. Can you throw those in as well? Just Hankin and Inter are the two that I want to be able to swap between to see which one's actually better. And feel free to just add a font weight option so that I can also readjust the font weight. These are both variable fonts. Okay, I don't think that has Inter. So why don't we pick, oh no, Inter's actually in there. I forget how to get rid of a font in here. Actually, no, I did. There we go. So we want to do import. I'm just going to do that. And let's see if that actually goes through. We want to do is get a sense for how we want it to look before we go any further. And we also want something portable. You want to constantly think about portable formats that you can move things between, or you end up getting locked in. Okay, it's actually editing parts of this somewhere. I forget exactly where. Oh, there we go. Now, the way that Claude does edits is really interesting. It specifies almost the entire line that it wants to rewrite or where it wants to start inserting from, and then it specifies the next thing instead of using like a line number. That was always really interesting to me. So Hankin, enter, okay. There we go. Now we've taken two internet fonts from Google Fonts and then we've pulled those in. And this is where knowing the little things actually makes a big difference, right? Because what we've done here is because I knew from having worked on things before that import is an easy way to inject fonts through the style sheet. Link and all of the other ways to do it require editing and modifying the head tag or modifying the DOM or the actual web page itself. So import's an easy way to do it. So now that we've got it, I guess that's what night mode looks like. It doesn't look that great. Um, I don't know what you think, but I think Inter actually looks way more readable to me. And at Inter size, I probably don't need to go that much bigger. Um, okay, yeah, 17 is a lot more readable. Um, now 1.5 is fine. I would go for maybe even 1.8 in terms of paragraph. Oh, this is where it gets interesting. I usually have to do these things fast enough so that I don't get hit with design fatigue where they all start looking the same. If I look at too many colors, they all start looking the same. If I start looking at too many font weights, they all start looking the same. I would say 500 is pretty good. All right, let's go with 400 for now, right? And I'll just select those things. Okay, these are my picks. Let's build our style sheet. Okay, now that we've got a style sheet, we need to figure out how to get information out of this site that we've got, right? Now, I'm just picking this. I haven't actually read it. It seems wonderful. It's not often that you find full-on books. Okay, let's find something with links because my guess here is that this is going to be mostly text heavy and link heavy. It's also, there we go. It's something with links. So I'm actually just going to go into the source, you know. Okay, if I look at the source, okay, there we go. So all of the code and everything's in here. Something useful to check is always when you're pasting in information. It's useful to have a general sense, almost like macro counting in a sense, how many tokens something is going to be, right? Because you might copy something and it's got like a bunch of minified code in there and it's way, way too long. And that ends up really constraining the model that you're actually using in terms of what else it can refer to or chucking things out of context, or it just becomes really, really dumb. You almost lobotomize models when you give them too much context. So this is about 13,000 tokens. It's actually not that bad. So in this case, I'm going to do what I don't usually do and actually just, just copy it straight into context, right? But before I do that, I'm actually just going to save this CSS. You kind of want to save your prompts and there we go. So that's kind of our CSS. And I might not use this exact CSS, but now there's a very concise way for me to give it to another model or someone else and just go, hey, these are kind of the styles, the general styles that I'm looking for. And that makes it so much easier for me to transfer things over. I could have used this picture, but that picture, not all of it's going to mean the same thing to, different models, right? Okay. I do notice that this is missing the inter import. That's okay. If we run into that, we'll fix it. For the time being now, let's start. Actually, let's do this, right? Let's actually use our models here. I'm going to use Gemini, Flash, and then I'm going to use Sonnet. And I'm just going to give all of them that. and just go, so here's a website that I want to improve the readability on. So I'm actually building an XJS page that pulls information from this website um, and then extracts just the readable text out of it and reformats and sort of restyles that part of the DOM. I want you to think about how you would do this realistically. We can fetch the page on the server side, so that's not necessarily an issue with cores. What I'm really looking for is what's a good way for us to extract out the readable part. Granted, this is the only website we're using here. This is the only website we're making readable, so you don't have to worry about being too resilient or versatile with your options in the way that the parsing is done. But we're looking for a good way to do it, and I'm using TypeScript. So ideally, the first thing I'd like is a TypeScript script that I can feed some of these web pages and see what the output is like. Okay, so that's a little. There we go. Um, Next.js got, you know, okay. Okay, so JS DOM, Gemini Flash is using JS DOM. Here, for example, Claude is using Cheerio and O1, right? UR01 is using Cheerio as well. Okay, so it's useful to look at different models because they might give you different approaches. And in cases where you really care, they might give you additional things that you might have missed or might not have looked at. Okay, so what I want you to do now is let's start building the proper app. Give me a Next.js files that I need to change both on the server and on the page side so that I can just visit a slug that where I change everything but the root URL, the root domain of the website, and you figure out exactly where to get it, pass it through the server to the front end, and show me just the readable bits and modify the links as well. Man, it's nice. Just the when these some of these things just go really fast and it's really nice. Okay, perfect. So, Flash is awesome. Flash has already given us even like a CSS and like a styling thing. It's also given us the server side rendered page itself. Um, and now it's given me the individually broken down files to use. Okay, and what's interesting is it's valuable to compare and contrast across models, right? I'm actually just going to give this prompt to O1 Pro, and we'll see how it does, right? We'll actually do an apples to apples kind of comparison because I think this is O1 Mini punching against the other ones. Actually, no, apples to oranges comparison. My bad. So this is closer to apples. 4.0 would have been an appropriate comparison, but it these days just genuinely doesn't rank in intelligence or ability anymore. So it feels like I'm punching down when I compare it to modern models. Um, but O1 Pro should tell us things that we didn't, you know. Okay, there we go. Right, we'll see how well O1 Pro did. But let's actually evaluate how these three different models actually did what we want them to do. Now, the first one is okay. O1 Mini did a reasonable job, told us to create the CSS, which is good. It didn't really need to properly tell us how to import the CSS. I'd much rather just give me the file. There's a utility file for fetching. Maybe dynamic routing. Okay, that's not that bad. Um, hmm. I mean, I'm not seeing anything specifically new here compared to Flash. Okay, so I mean, granted, now we have multiple models generating code for us, so we can actually compare and see which ones are actually better. Okay, and oh, I'm still thinking it's like the thinker from Night at the Museum. In the meantime, why don't we go set up our little website? Okay. We're gonna build. Okay, there we go. Sorry. Just to create next tab, and then we go yes, 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 yes to create the Next.js scaffolding. It's really useful to be comfortable with the Next.js scaffolding because that's an actual real website that you can these days deliver, deploy for free very, very quickly and make modifications. That's one you can grow with a lot faster than if you use the builder, which at some point you then have to exit that framework. In our case, we don't really care, but prior experience, I still stick with some of these. Maybe that'll bite us in the ass. We'll see. Um, Okay, now we've got it up and running. I don't know if they do tabs. I don't think they do. Um, no, frames, not tabs, my bad. Okay, there we go. That is our thing working. And we're just gonna open up code so we can look at that. Okay, we're still thinking. All right, how fast can we actually just build this thing with Flash? Okay, we want a slug.tsx here. I'm actually just gonna go scorched earth and just go. Yeah, we want to get rid of all of it. But our thinker is still thinking. Jesus. Okay. Extract readable content. Just gonna paste that in. JS DOM. Um, modified link.tsx. Fine. Still pretty simple. It's not properly Next.js-y, but that's okay. We can kind of live with it for now. Okay, that also works. What's our error here? Possibly null. Just leave that for now. Okay, dynamic routing, server-side fetching, CSS, styles. I think I'm doing this wrong. I forget. I forget exactly. Yeah, this is why it's useful. That when I was telling me how to actually import it. We can ignore that for now. Maybe this is gonna fail, but maybe it is gonna succeed. We'll find out. Okay, we have a problem. Okay, so that worked, sort of. We'll see. What we actually want is for this to work. No, that didn't actually work. So this is using Cheerio. Okay, so neither will work necessarily. I'll just check this. Okay, why don't we just... Okay. So Flash hopefully has immediately picked up what the issue is, and I would not fault anyone else for not picking up the issue. Can't resolve child process. Okay, that's fine. Got Misty over here. Copied the wrong thing. Okay, does that work? Nope. Okay, cool. From this point on, what we're going to do is we're just going to consider this our app and then just debug it, right? So something that we can do very easily here is take this. Maybe I want to add next.config, tailwind.config, tsconfig.json. All Mandark's just going to do with A means get everything. Don't remove the import statements, and C just means, take the copy to clipboard. So all this is done is just copied that to clipboard. And now we're just going to ask. So I have this thing that's effectively trying to make a website readable. So its job is to pull information from a website. You know, I just want to be able to replace the root domain of the website with my website, which in this case would just be localhost 300 while I'm running it locally, and extract out the readable bits and then show it, right? Unfortunately, I'm getting this error when I try and visit the link. I'll show you the original link that I'm trying to pull from and the link that the modified link that should work and the error that I'm getting. So if we go in here and I just take, the link that I'm supposed to be getting, should be this. Okay, that's my prompt. And now everyone else is going to get that prompt. Right? Gemini 2.0. Okay, for the time being, let's just leave it there, right? Easier to read. Okay, now you guys can go think about it. So all this basically did was take all of our code, tag it by exactly what the path is. That's actually useful context. Line tag it, and then hand it off. So now they're all going to try and solve our problem. It's like, okay, modify next.config to add a webpack configuration is what that says. Okay, extract readable content is now different. Gemini is suggesting a change that doesn't actually involve changing the next config. Well, good job. Why don't I just ask Pro instead? Because I love waiting. So I'm just going to make this change to see how it is, because this is actually making changes to code and not config, which if that works is exactly what I'd like. Okay. I mean, that works. Nope. Okay. Okay, so that didn't actually work. Okay, next.config. It is. So second option, which is going to listen to these models and still end up with similar issues. Very, very similar issues. Let's go. Go to work. Okay. Okay, sorry, that's the old Pro. New Pro is still thinking, and it's allocating. It's really thinking. It's just really going to town. Okay. Ooh, interesting. At least we've got something that works better now. Okay, perfect. So I'll just create more chats more often, right? Um, and just refresh things. Okay, readable content. Maybe readable content was borked this whole time. Our slug didn't necessarily work. In this particular case, this is our get server-side props with a lot more log, I'm guessing. Okay, we're just gonna get those errors again. Ah, it's fetching the wrong URL because it's trying to replace it twice. Just check that that is right. Okay, at least that's now fixed. Okay, now I can just go back to Sonnet and say, hey, this is what happened. Readable content and slug.txx. Just gonna modify those. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Cool. So here's what I'm gonna do again. I'm just gonna get mandark, then copy that over. Is ChatGPT still thinking? Oh boy. I guess it's done thinking. Cool. Okay, here's the code for a reader app that I've just written. I it seems largely working. A couple of things I want to make sure that we actually have working is the formatting needs to pull over from the original side. I'll give you an example of the kind of formatting that it's now pulling forward, or an example of the original site. And here's an example style sheet that should give you a sense of the kind of look that I'm going for. We also want to make sure we modify links as they come through so that it goes to our site instead of the original site. So I want to give it some example of the kind of stuff. Expect, do we actually inject all the right things? I wonder. Okay. So turns out we didn't actually pull the um, DOM-based formatting like paragraph breaks, line breaks, emphasis, that kind of thing over from the original site. You can probably see it in the code. We want to fix that as well. I'll give you an example of the original site's code to show you how it looks like in the original site. Okay, this kind of ranting really, really does work. Um, and in this case, I kind of don't need a good chunk of this, but I will keep it anyway. When we get down here, and then this stuff is going to be There's a reason this kind of work really functions far better than almost any automated system is the judgment calls that I'm making about what to copy and what to not, when to start a chat, when to redirect. That human in the loop has this massive improvement over any sort of automated system because the automated system doesn't have enough of a target. What's actually happening here? What's happening here is I have a general target for how this should work in my head. Despite how much I've rambled at the computer, I still haven't expressed that well enough to the system for it to be able to use it. So what I'm doing every single time I start a new chat, or I say, no, you didn't do it right, or this is the thing I want you to look at, or not else, I'm expressing more and more of my preferences. And I worry that this is just a massive wall that automated, no human in the loop looping systems can rarely get over without massive data, either pre training level data or fine tuning level data, is just understanding the human context, right? Okay, there we go. We have a bunch of stuff that it's pulled in, globals.css. We don't have an app directory. Why did you think that we had an app directory? Okay, did Sonnet do better? Okay. Okay. Sonnet's all Sonnet's really done, and Sonnet is still in a lot of ways because it tries to be brief, and sometimes that's exactly what you want. Um, Render HTML components safely. Okay. Um, what happens now? What does it look like now? Oh, wonderful. We've got our styling back. Sorry about the interruption. Got wonderful family that keeps trying to deliver food. But we have our styling back. And now that we have it, I can also just look at Sonnet's recommendation for global CSS. Um, okay, how do I hook in the styling? Globals.css. Okay, that's fine. I can just take that. Okay, we also have the style sheet from before, so we can just hook that up ourselves. In app.tss. We actually don't have an app.tss because we got rid of it. So we'll just do it here. Hopefully that works. Whoa. Okay, better. Can we just do this? That's also better. Okay, wonderful, right? So now we've got a reasonably functional. Let's see if that works. No, the links don't actually get modified. Okay, the links don't actually get modified. Can you make sure that the links actually have the root domain rewritten to our domain, whatever that is that we're currently running on, to make sure that they actually go to the right place? Meanwhile, I can do this. And I mean, it's hard finding things that, you know, 401 Pro possibly could do to see if it's any good at it. Um, Okay, this is an app that I've built that's largely primarily a reader app. What I want you to do is make it look significantly better. I'll attach a style sheet that kind of indicates my preferences, but feel free to use best practices. Make it look super cool, make adjustments, whatever you need to do within the confines of that style sheet to make things look better. That's your primary job. Okay, so we are now going to get the style sheet that we had before. We did copy it away, so that's actually useful for us. Um, but in our case, I forgot to include the style sheet, so I'm just going to do that. Right, styles global.css. Okay, so we've copied that to the clipboard. Just do that. Wonderful. It's just off and thinking. Um, okay, modified links. Extract readable content, and thankfully it's given us the whole thing. Okay, update server-side props here. Modified link component. Okay, how well does this work? Okay, that is reasonably quick. Now all we need is the styling. So awesome work we've gotten this far. And I apologize for just crumpled shirt. I'm only just noticing. I just sat down and I went, hey, I want to make sure that I can read this better. And because I'd really like to sit down and read it for a bit and see if it's useful. And previously, this is something that would have taken me like a week, at least a week of just concerted work. Now we can speed run this in 40 minutes while we're talking. Wonderful. GPT is enhancing aesthetics. So let's just wait for that to happen. In the meantime, something that we also can do with Pro. Okay, there we go. We should have a really, oh man, okay, just love the ASCII art, dude. Um, okay, this better look awesome. Is that it? I don't get it. Wasn't this like a green? And weren't we using enter? Boy, I, I'm trying, all right? I'm trying to, there we go. This is just gonna be a straight up bake off. Wonderful. You picked up that I needed enter. Thank you, Sonnet. Unfortunately, Gemini Flash has started going in diffs, which kind of makes sense. There's some like diff level intention there. I guess they're all writing in diffs. Okay, there we go. Misty, man, handy. Like every time you end up looking for a specific functionality, it's actually there. Global.css. There we go. Just paste that in. Better, better, much better. But it also told us to change Tailwind. Okay. That's actually not that bad. That's reasonable. I would be pretty happy deploying that. Okay, these guys still want to give me possibly divs, but I don't know. Maybe that's a Misty thing. I do not. Nope, it's not. And so that doesn't work. Nope. Okay. Here, it is actually doing it, but not as well. So Sonnet gets full points for actually making this happen. Cool. We are now close to done, right? At least just the general stuff of putting this through. What we want to do here is Okay, so that is effectively working. Now we want to make it better, right? So we are just going to take all of our different things. I'm just going to remove this globals.css. And now I'm just going to go to, we're just going to have a bake off. Oh, whoops, that's on me. Okay, here's an app that I have that is primarily a reading app that's meant to sit in front of another app and improve the reading experience. I want you to significantly improve this app by adding things like dark mode toggles, maybe a bunch of palettes and themes. I want you to store all of the points where I stopped scrolling and then started scrolling and the new scroll position into local storage. When I land on the site, I want you to remember my last read position, maybe even show me a list or just show me the last read position and give me a toast or the ability to sort of jump right back there so I can just pick up exactly where was reading, including the page. Even if I land on the wrong page, I want you to tell me which page I was on. And just add any and all other quality of life features that you think would be helpful. Oh, and give me the full code for the different files that I need to do. Okay, there we go. This is the kind of thing where O1 Pro likely very much shines because of the sheer output length that it's got. Here, Sonnet, poor thing, is just living with 8,000 tokens. Gemini, I think, is still 8192 tokens, um, but I've seen it do longer. I can swear I've seen it do longer. Okay, now we just wait. It just feels way longer, right? Okay, sorry about that. Can you give me the actual full files? You don't have to follow the diff format. You don't have to line tag it. I want things inside Markdown blocks I can just copy straight into the right files. Oh, I mean, Gemini has also gotten really, really fast. I think that's about 200 tokens per second. Last I measured, it was 180. So why don't we start here and then implement sort of Sonnet's version? Okay, team context, reading progress tracker. Already have theme toggle. Reading progress. None of these models are great at writing properly typed code. That's why all the red lines are showing up. Article page component. Okay, here I'll probably just do this. Okay, reading progress and all the other ones. Globals.css to support. Okay, there we go. That's my bad. Okay, app.tsx. Okay, let's see if that works. We just added a bunch of files. I'm just going to reboot. Okay, way better. And now we've got super slow theming. Where's our reading progress? Why doesn't that show up? That work? Okay, ChatGPT is still going. O1 Pro is still going. I mean, you go, but just nice. Okay, we just copy that in and go. Okay, it's not showing up, but man, this is starting to get really, really good. So let's go to the next one. What? Okay. We got some of the basic features working. So I'll deploy this at the end, right? In case you want to go read MCTV. Also, I apologize for the MCTV folks. I'm really not trying to copy it. I'm just trying to read it. I am just trying to read it. So always welcome to just lock me out or just send me a message and say, hey, not cool. Um, reading progress.ts. Okay, didn't I? I did. The component that I need, slug, article page, theme toggle. Okay. Okay, let's just import it from throttle debounce. Wonderful. Sort of. As soon as we start scrolling. Okay, how will we? Okay, we're gonna use what Flash is gonna try and do. Flash wants to change all of our. Theme toggle, theme context, app, extract, readable. Next, start config. You want to change everything, does it? Ouch. All right, fine. We'll just restart the whole thing. Okay, here's the thing that I'm working on. For some reason, the scroll indicator doesn't work. The theme toggle doesn't look that great. I don't think the bookmark and recall functionality works that great either. I want you to try and fix all of these and fix any other problems that you see in here. Okay, last thing we do, we're actually coming up on time. So I might just bookmark this here instead of launch it. But the interesting thing here is just being able to move between models to take ideas from different ones is a really, really useful property. And when you're trying to develop early, what you often want to do is start over as many times as you can, right? Make it flexible so that things can actually move around. Okay, we'll implement these, and then I'll show you one more thing. Something that's also really helpful. This is where Owen Pro is reasonably helpful some of the time. If I was now starting to think about deploying it, I would go, okay, here is some code that I've written primarily for a reading app. Look for problems specifically in here. Look for edge cases that aren't necessarily handled. Remove some of the obvious ones, but give me an actionable list of items that I can change, possibly even with full code, not pseudocode, not template code, on how we can improve this and sort of make this better. Don't try and suggest functionality improvements that are massive. Try and stay within the spirit of what this is trying to do and help me fix bugs, find edge cases, and improve it overall. Okay, wonderful. Okay, help me improve this code that I've written. This is meant to be a reading app that's meant to show the. Okay, help me improve this code that I've written. Okay, here's something else you can do is by taking all of the code and then asking Owen Pro, something that is reasonably good at it, coming up with the analysis, and he can do that in the background while you make other improvements. Is I ask for improvements, edge cases, fixes, things that we can actually improve. But here, let's go back and actually start making some changes. This is our theme toggle. Okay, reading progress. I think that looks like full code. Globals.css. Reading position storage. There's two content containers. Thankfully, CSS kind of stacks, so it's not a huge issue for us to be doing this. Oh, we don't have. Maybe Claude actually suggested that. It didn't. Claude. Reading progress, okay. We were just supposed to change this guy. To be bigger, I guess. But that's also a logic bug that I would not have expected Claude to be making. Okay, that's really interesting that it's done buttons now. Okay, can we go back? Okay, that's not too bad. Let me just go here. Just gonna copy this link. Just go here and say, perfect. Okay, we've kept our reading position and we are going back. What in the world is somehow managed to. I mean, I cut tools a little bit of slack, especially young ones. Wow, okay, that is a problem. All right, why don't we just use regular Claude for right now? Cool. Just say, okay, this is a reading app that I designed to, or me and you together, we've designed to take information from a web page and then pull it out. My problem effect here is that the titles are not being parsed properly, and the buttons and the reading position indicator stuff looks a bit ugly. I'll add a picture, and I'll also add, I'll give you an example of what the original page looks like that we're pulling from, so you can help me improve all of these problems. Okay, just paste that in there. Can we also mention the okay, last thing to fix. I mean, the interesting thing here is that despite how much development goes into LLM application layers, this is still better than most of them. Okay, let's go to extract readable content, and then let's just change that one function I think that we have in there. There we go. Current URL that needs to get passed in, so that's going to be an issue. Scroll percentage indicator, reading progress. That didn't exactly fix most of our problems. I want you to sort of double check and give me full code for the CSS file so I can just fully update that. The titles aren't fully fixed. The scroll positions at the top, the styling for the buttons isn't fully fixed just yet. Here's the latest code. Okay, this is not working as well as we thought it would. Let's just try and reload it and see if that was the issue. No, it's still not getting it right. Okay, I love that Claude does this. Like Claude's, the way that Sonnet talks is still kind of my favorite. Okay, so Claude is now going through and asking and figuring out how to fix those issues specifically. We've just said, hey, didn't fix the problems that we had, do it again. Refactoring and sort of reflection oftentimes is the biggest thing uh, in improving language model performance. So what we're going to do here, poor Misty crashed out, and update our globals.css. Maybe that fixes some things. I think there's a little, oh yeah, cool. There's a little scroll indicator there. It's actually just not themed properly. Maybe this is on me. There we go. Ah, we can now tell. It's way easier. So it actually was trying to do that. Readable content. Got extract readable content. Slug page needs to get updated. Is that the whole thing? Hopefully that's the whole thing. Just restart the page. See if that fixes everything. Wonderful. Our app now is primarily functional. There's a bunch of things I'd fix in terms of general structure. That's okay. Why don't I just go back here, see if it remembers, but we're slightly out of time. So I'm just going to go here, make this thing I'll make it public. We'll push it up, and then we'll just deploy it. See if it builds. There's a chance it doesn't build. We'll come back to that. But I will finish this up and push it up, and I'll clean up some of those things and push it up, and so you can test it out. The goal here was primarily just to sit down and code something together that was going to be useful for me, and if it ends up being useful for you and for any part of that process or workflow was fun to listen to or easy to follow, hopefully, or useful in any way, let me know. Love to hear about it.